There are a few constants about the fall season. Firstly, the weather gets a little cooler, then there's all the candy, and of course, you'll probably find yourself looking for a fun movie to watch at night under the blanket. And one that's just our favorite, Hocus Pocus. Stay tuned as we talk about everything behind the scenes of the newest installment of the movie. We're so excited about the sequel. The eternal classic remains a staple of modern pop culture, so much so that Disney has brought back to screens the Sanderson Sisters, along with the original actresses who play them for Hocus Pocus 2. Many of the original puzzle pieces still fit into this sequel storyline, which now takes place in modern-day Salem. Bette Midler, who plays Winifred, Sarah Jessica Parker, who plays Sarah, and Kathy Najimy, who portrays Mary, for example, have all returned to claim back their leading roles, and they deserve it. It's difficult to imagine the story being recounted without them, and it wouldn't be the same. This is the only thing millennials have been waiting longer for than affordable housing. The 1993 Halloween-themed Disney film outraged critics while charming audiences, rising it up in ranks to cult movie status in the 3 decades since its first release. That's why we're so happy that Hocus Pocus 2 has finally come with a straight-to-VHS, exclusive to Disney+. Now on to a recap of the original. We're sure you don't need a reminder of what this movie was about, but here's one anyway. The original film follows a group of kids who band together to destroy the darkly comic Sanderson Sisters after accidentally resurrecting them from their graves. The witches embark on a time-sensitive mission for immortality, which includes a virgin, the souls of children, and of course a few musical numbers. Film critics panned the comedy, including the Washington Post's own Desson Howe, who said it was another future videotape disguised as a movie. He said to look for Hocus Pocus in rental store bins or as part of a Halloween trick-or-treat package in the near future. Today's kids probably don't even know what that is. Everyone loved it anyway. Even so, critical disdain did nothing to stop the deep love that many children developed for the mildly frightening movie. And even though it didn't do too well in cinemas or with home sales, it found a second life on TV when Disney decided to air the flick on its own channel and once more on ABC Family. According to Vulture's Joseph Adelin, a generation of millennials suddenly started to associate Hocus Pocus with Halloween, watching it with the same reverence 70s and 80s kids had for It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and the Thriller video. It was like an ugly duckling, Midler told People magazine in a piece commemorating the film's 25th anniversary. Nobody thought a little creature could achieve anything, and now it's a swan. It has discovered its wings and has simply flown away. It's fantastic. What does the cast say about it? As you know by now, in Hocus Pocus 2, Midler, Najimy, and Parker return as Winifred, Mary, and Sarah Sanderson, respectively. Alongside them is Doug Jones, who you might remember as the fish person from The Shape of Water or the fish person from Hellboy, and who comes back as friendly zombie Billy Butcherson. In an interview, Najimy was asked how she thinks the movie has survived every Halloween for the past 30 years. She said that she thought it was something in this film, perhaps Wizard of Oz-esque, where a generation shows it to their children, who show it to their children, who shows it to their children, so it becomes this part of the family's history. Remembering the first film released in 1993 was also on director Ann Fletcher's mind. Fletcher, who has worked on rom-com hits such as 27 Dresses and The Proposal, has now worked on the sequel to the campy cult classic, but the original magic had to be present. She says that in general, the mission is the story and honoring the first film, and making sure she's honoring these characters for the fans and bringing them into a new generation. Including musical numbers as part of honoring the original, but she didn't think she could compete with I Put a Spell on You, so she didn't try. She mentioned that they stayed very centered on trying to stay more focused on the story, and that they had so many fun song options to choose from and landed where they landed. Who doesn't want to see Bette Midler perform? Hocus Pocus 2 attempts to stand on its own, and the story is now told through the eyes of 3 best friends, Izzy, who is played by Belissa Escobedo, Becca, played by Whitney Peak, and Cassie, who's played by Lilla Buckingham. The exclusion of other original central characters such as Omri Katz as Max, Thora Birch as Danny, and Vanessa Shaw as Allison is partially compensated for by this trio. When asked about her character's friendships, Buckingham said that Cassie was a lot of fun to play. She mentioned that the character and the actors are just regular teenagers with real feelings. They are understated in the sense that they are completely genuine, and they just have this love and friendship for each other. Every teenager has experienced a difficult period with their friends, and also things like having their first boyfriend or girlfriend. Cassie is a perfect example of stumbling and trying to figure it out by communicating with her best friend, and it's the most genuine thing ever. Escobedo had almost the same experience with her role, but it was the genre that drew her attention when she was casting. She's worked on some other horror projects, but with Ryan Murphy on shows like American Horror Story, so she's seen both sides of the story. In an interview, she says, "I've always loved spooky Halloween movies because I feel like they could be extremes on both ends. You see the campiness and how it can be fun, like with this. You have one end of horror and then this end, and they all bridge together in the same genre to celebrate this holiday. There are many new characters in the sequel. The Sanderson Sisters are accidentally set free on Halloween night, just like in the previous film, to cause mayhem on the children of Salem. Another new character, Sam Richardson, is presented as the owner of the Old Salem Magic Shop, aka the former home of the Sanderson Sisters and the Black Flamed Candle. According to Fletcher, Richardson, who has made appearances in hits such as Apple TV's The After Party, agreed to the role without even meeting with the director. And why is that? Richardson recalls, because I love Hocus Pocus. He said that even as a child, nobody took the world that was in that film and the performances for granted. True, grand performances, but so focused and narrowed in. Other new characters include Richardson's Veep co-star Tony Hale, as well as Ted Lasso and Game of Thrones star Hannah Waddingham. But even so, some old favorites such as Billy Butcherson have returned. In the first movie, Winifred Sanderson's ex-boyfriend, whom she poisoned after catching him having an affair with her younger sister, Sarah, is brought back to life. And even after 29 years, Doug Jones, now 62, said the part came back to him effortlessly. When Billy returned, I looked in the mirror and thought, wow, 2 minutes have passed and I've lost 29 years. The voice and everything came back right away, he explains. I'm not sure how it happened, but it was magical. Well, magic is all we can expect. Whatever changes that were made, Hocus Pocus 2 does put its own twist on a classic while still paying homage to the original to the best of its ability. If anything, the Sanderson Sisters have come back, for which we'd all light that candle. Bette Midler concludes by saying that, in a strange way, I think these three characters are quite positive for women. First and foremost, they're very funny, which women are not allowed or expected to be, and they are intensely loyal to each other. They experience a wide range of emotions, but in a strange way, I believe their bond is extremely strong. A bond and sisterhood are extremely important in any situation where women are present. Now let's talk about some cool facts behind the scenes. Given that a potential sequel has been discussed for nearly 30 years, it's no surprise that Hocus Pocus 2 includes a series of behind-the-scenes stories. Between directors being replaced and original actors not being called back, there was a lot of drama surrounding the production of Hocus Pocus 2. However, it ultimately equates to one of Disney's greatest success stories. So let's dive right in. It was initially going to be a remake. Many 80s and 90s properties have gotten remakes, whether it's Ghostbusters or Total Recall, and Hocus Pocus came close to getting one as well. While a Hocus Pocus remake has inspired some fantastic fan casting, many fans would have been outraged given how iconic the three main actresses are as the witches. Kenny Ortega, the original director, spoke about the remake, but he also admitted that a sequel would be much better, saying, bringing the ladies back would be a lot more fun. They're all still vital in their prime and capable of accomplishing so much that it would be wonderful to see Bette, Kathy, and Sarah reunite. It wasn't really shot in Salem. Only a few films are so tightly linked to the setting that it almost becomes a character and of itself. And in the case of Hocus Pocus, Salem was as much of a main character as the actual witches. While the sequel is set in Salem, it was actually filmed in Rhode Island, which doubled for the eerie historical town. Locations frequently double as other locations on movie sets for a variety of reasons, whether for tax reasons or because it's more logical. However, it appears to be very authentic and original. Some jokes were improvised. Kathy Najimy has been a stand-up comedian since the 1980s, so it's no surprise that many people think Kathy's Mary is the most funny of the three Sanderson sisters. Najimy improvised jokes while shooting scenes for the sequel, just as she most likely did on the set of the original film. Nathan Walker, the film's key production assistant, says, she's so funny, and in this one, she's been allowed to improvise a lot more, so she has some great one-liners. She has a lot of great material to work with on this one. Some originals weren't called back. There are numerous leads who did not return for a sequel, and now Omri Katz will be added to the list since he isn't in Hocus Pocus 2. It's not show friends, it's show business, Jerry Maguire once said, and no actor is guaranteed a role in a sequel simply because they starred in the original film. And it looks like Katz, who played Max in Hocus Pocus, is one of them. It was one of the film's main roles, and no one seems to be more upset than Katz. According to the actor, he would have loved to have been part of it. But that's not all. Larry Bagby, like Omri Katz, didn't return for the sequel, but his role in the first film was not nearly as important, as he played Ernie, one of the bullies. In any case, that doesn't mean he didn't try out for a role in Hocus Pocus 2. Oddly, Bagby tried out for a completely different role, that of a magic store owner, but he didn't get the call back. Oh well. And that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more movie-related news. We'll see you next time. Bye.